Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Red Gaming Tech.com video, we're going to be discussing as well as analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up in the past 24 or so hours. Hopefully you're having an amazing day. 2020 has been interesting when it comes to technology. Tons of cool hardware releases. The problem is getting hold of them has been tricky. And we all know the story of the scalpers that have been reselling hardware for massive profits. But just how massive, like how much money have these people actually made? Well, there's fascinating research that has been conducted by an Oracle data engineer. Now, obviously, there's a pretty good chance that he has a good understanding of how data works. And he's done some analysis of eBay sales. Now, there's a few important caveats here. The first caveat is that he did make a few assumptions with the data, which we'll get into in just a moment. And the second caveat, and perhaps the most alarming one, is that this is just eBay.com. So there are tons of regional marketplaces which have not been accounted for here. Even if popular websites like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, there's no data. But even so, let's have a quick look. So, all credit to Michael Driscoll for this research. I'll of course link his analysis in the video description. And I'm not going to go through all of his research because quite honestly it's very thorough. But I will pick out a few particular SKUs which I find interesting anyway. So first of all, if we take a look at the 5600X, which is a really great gaming CPU from AMD, based on the Zen 3 architecture of course, and there are 728 units which have sold so far, with the MSRP naturally being $300 US. So an eBay scalper needs to make between $304 to $375 US, and this is of course because of fees on eBay. So apparently their profits have been almost $100,000 on this particular processor alone, with total sales being around 314,000. And there's volume products like the 5950X, which is a lot harder to come by. There is only 322 sold, and with an MSRP of $800 US, but the median price is $1,400 US. So the total sales are 450,000, with the scalper profits being 200,000, and I'm going to round up and down for our sanity. What about Big Nave? Well, much the same thing. The 6800 XT has been essentially gold dust, 200 units sold, MSRP of $649 US, of course, with the median price being $1,277. So the total sales are 244,000, whereas the scalper eBay profits are about 120,000. And Nvidia, no different. The RTX 3060 Ti has an MSRP of $400 US, but the median price for sale has just been $649. But fortunately, only 112 units have been sold. Honestly, it's a great card, but it's no longer a great value card when it's selling for almost the same price as an RTX 3080, which is selling for $699 MSRP. But often the median price is like $1,300, which is essentially the same price that the RTX 2080 Ti sold for at MSRP when it launched a couple of years ago. So the total sales for the 3080 are 10.3 million, with the scalper profits being about 5.2 million. And what about consoles? Are they any better? Of course not. The disc version, which is what I'm going to focus on here, has a total number of units sold of 25,642, with the MSRP of the console, much like the Xbox, being $499 US, with the median price being $1,000, and the total sales an eye-watering $27.5 million US, with the scalper profits being about 14.7. Those are a lot of numbers, and again, I will link his article in the video description. But I want to stress one more time that this is just eBay.com. This is not Craigslist or tons of other popular marketplaces. And the thing is, I can't blame people necessarily for buying this stuff. Now, I do know what people are going to say in the comments. Why are you giving scalpers the money? Like, it's justifying their actions, and I get it. Trust me, I understand. But it's been a hard year for people, and I understand that people are feeling frustrated there. You know, they're home, they're self-isolating, whatever, is going on in your life. And you're like, I really want to play Cyberpunk with like ray tracing on and all of this stuff, and I want to play this game and I want to play that game, or I sold my old graphics card, whatever it is. Or maybe you're building a graphics card, a system for your friend, and you want to give them like your old stuff, and you're like, man, all I need is like my new CPU and I'm set. Or maybe it's the PlayStation 5 and you're looking at Demon Souls and your pre-order got cancelled by the retailer, and so you're just sitting there with like Spider-Man in one hand, Demon Souls in the other, and you're thinking, well, what the hell? And again, I understand that there is a lot of conflicting thoughts on this, because some people don't want to give the money, but if you're wealthy, if you can afford it, I do understand the temptation to do it. Similarly, while it does annoy the hell out of me that eBay and these websites are filled with these products minutes after they've gone on sale and no longer available to anyone, I also do have some level of sympathy to those who have lost their jobs, and selling a couple of these PlayStation 5s is going to help them make rent for the next couple of months. Now, I do understand that if you're a big ring and you're selling like 500 PlayStation 5s, that's totally different. But if you've managed to grab like an Xbox or whatever and you've sold it and it's going to help you make rent, I don't want to say that I advocate it, but man, it's like, if you need to make rent, people go to desperate measures. And there is some light, however, at the end of the tunnel. Now, the good news is that the production for Ampere and these other products is ramping up, and I'm 100% confident of that. I'm told that the RTX 3060 Ti is going to be a lot more plentiful. RTX 3070 is starting to ship in volume. The thing is, production takes several months to ramp up. We're looking at 2 to 3 months minimum. And AMD have also confirmed that the reference designs for the RX 6000 series are not going anywhere. This is according to Scott Herkelman. Originally, they were going to go bye-bye early Q1 next year, but they've confirmed that this is not the case. And that's brilliant, because it should mean that you have options for MSRP facing cards. And MSRP is a big topic in and of itself, and something that I haven't really tackled. But as a reviewer, well, I'm getting more into reviews anyway, it's a very sensitive topic, because I don't know the price a lot of the time ahead of when a product launches. So, for example, with the 3060 Ti, a couple of days before the card's review embargo lifted, I was told these are the prices in these regions, and I'm told the US price, because obviously tons of people are in the States. It's actually my largest audience by far, so thanks to those in the States who are watching this, and of course the UK, because it's the second largest audience, because I'm British. But yeah, being serious for a moment, so I get the US dollar price and the Great British Pound price for these products. So what happens inevitably is that I can give the price of the MSRP of the Founders Edition card and the few AIB reference models which do hit MSRP, but then inevitably there'll be a crap ton of cards which don't hit MSRP, and then Zotac or whomever, I'm not picking on Zotac for any reason, I'm just using them, you could pretty much pick any name out of the hat, MSI or Asus or whomever, and most of those products are going to be like, they're trying to sell cards, of course, which are not MSRP, so they can make their money back. Because obviously the margins on the AIB models are razor thin. So what you'll have is a crap ton of cards which are like 20-30% above MSRP, and then it's like, well, yeah, the 3060 Ti is a great card, but now it's no longer like $399 or whatever the price of the product is. It's now $200 more, or $150 more, or $100 more. Is it worth it? Because now you've gone up a product here. And I do understand some people want the better cooler, or they want the high factory overclocks, or whatever. But it becomes very tricky. Now, I might do some investigation of that on another video, maybe. But bottom line, it becomes extremely tricky to kind of figure this stuff out. And yeah, it's bonkers, and the demand is just so high too, because Gigabyte recently, their financials have come out, and there's a really interesting tweet from Dylan on Twitter. I'll link his tweet in the video description. You should actually give him a follow. Really knowledgeable guy, great for market analysis. And Dylan522p on Twitter said that Gigabyte's year-on-year revenue in November is up 78%. Meanwhile, October was up 27% again year-on-year. And it's just because of the demand. I know that the demand for the RTX 30 series has been unprecedented. Nvidia have told me this directly. Multiple retailers have told me this. It's ridiculous. Like, retailers, all I can say is that the demand for the 30 series, and I believe it's the same for the 6000 series and Zen 3 as well, it's the traffic generated. Like, let's say the traffic for Black Friday's there, right? And a normal product launch for, like, let's say the RTX 20 series is like there. So it's you know, it's not bad. Like, baseline would be like sub-basement, like down here, and then 20 series would be there. Black Friday's there. Some of these products are hitting like into the stratosphere. It's ridiculous just because of the demand for the product, and all of these things just are coming together. And I feel like I'm droning on at this point, so let's move on to the next topic. CoPT7 Kimmy, who has a really great track record for Nvidia leaks, has said that he believes that Hopper, which is of course the next generation MCM GPU from Nvidia, has actually been delayed. So it's possible that Nvidia could be doing some type of roadmap reshuffle. Now, there are a lot of options that I've been hearing for Nvidia, and I've got different sources that have told me completely different things. So I'm going to give you guys, rather than saying this is how I know it's going to go, I'm going to tell you what my sources have told me, because honestly, I don't know if Nvidia are not sure of the direction, or whether they're exploring a few different possibilities, or one of my sources is just guessing, or what. But here's what I've been told, and this is from a couple of reliable sources. So the first option is they're just going to let Ampere rock until Hopper launches. The negative of this is that this could potentially be a couple of years. And obviously at that point, RDNA 3 is going to be a thing. In fact, RDNA 4 is already in development, and it looks like RDNA 3 is going to hit late next year, possibly early 2022, but I'm guessing late next year. And also Apple and Intel will be throwing their hat into the arena. Yes, Apple is only for the Apple ecosystem, but even so, it's still a market which Nvidia needs to be aware of. So that's option one. Option two is that we could see Nvidia employ a die shrink or some type of refresh on 7nm or on a different process. And one theory I've heard from a couple of people is that it could use TSMC's 7nm process, which is the same as they're using for data center Ampere. It wouldn't be that difficult for Nvidia to do this, but interestingly, I'm hearing that they're not that keen to just do that. They're going to tweak the specs a little bit as well and make some changes to the architecture, but how that comes into play, I'm not sure. I think most of us would agree that Jansen is not someone who is accepting of being second in the market. And this is not a criticism, by the way, to anyone. Like, I'm sure you'll agree that Lisa Su also wants excellence, right? So I don't think Jansen is going to sit on his laurels. And most likely, they have backup plans, they have contingency plans. And as we've seen even with Intel's, backport to the 14nm process, which is basically an architecture which was done, given it was Sunny Cove, it still took a couple of years for this port, right? It still took them time to backport it. I heard of the backport like last year, I reported that, and it's not launching until next year, and most likely my info at the time was already pretty old, because we knew about Rocket Lake way before I reported exclusively it was a backport. We'd been hearing about Rocket Lake, so imagine just how long they've been working on it at that point as a backport, let alone until it's actually released. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal though for Nvidia, because assuming the architecture changes are quite small, it could be, and this is speculation on my part, it could be like the Zen 3 refresh a little bit. But whether this is the case, or whether we do see Hopper actually launch on schedule, I don't know. I mean, technically speaking, I guess there wasn't exactly a release date. It's not like Jansen said it was going to come out September 19th, 2021 or anything like that. It's not like he gave an exact schedule. So I guess in that respect, it's not a delay publicly, but it's an internal delay, which is, of course, as bad. And most of the time, their partners do have a fundamental understanding of when these things are going to come out anyway. And I want to tackle one last story for this video, and it concerned the PlayStation 5. And honestly, I don't believe I'm having to say this in a video, but there was a die shot that was released by a chap on Twitter. I'll link to the Twitter account in the video description, although they've pulled the image at this point. And on the die, it literally said 2019, and tons of people have been using that to say what type of technology is inside the PlayStation 5, which is absolutely ridiculously stupid. Both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X systems have been the victim of a ton of misinformation. With the Series X, just a few of the rumours I've tackled over the past few months of the system not having dedicated audio processing units, which naturally is a load of rubbish, and a more ironic one is the system doesn't have a full RDNA 2 based GPU, but instead it has some elements of RDNA 1. I tackled that quite extensively. With the PlayStation 5, if you've been a regular viewer, you'll know that I've said that the GPU is heavily customized, with Sony adding custom blocks such as the geometry engine, and also there's the cache scrubbers too. I've extensively detailed what they are, so I'm not going to spend too long going into the custom elements of the GPU in this video. But basically what I'm trying to say is that a lot of this information is just continuing and fear-mongering on the internet, and please don't let a date of a GPU have any bearing into what is actually inside of the GPU. Again, these roadmaps are set years in advance. I would highly suggest that you just listen to Sony and AMD when they state that the GPU is RDNA 2 based, customized, like the Xbox Series X. The features are a little different, as I've discussed previously in a video, an exclusive, with the Xbox Series X needing a unified feature set between it and the desktop for obvious reasons, for development across both platforms. But with Sony, they don't need to do that. They've only got the PlayStation ecosystem, and so they don't even have the same API. They're using PSSL, or PlayStation Shader Language, which also, like DirectX, can have a low or a high level of abstraction. And I've already extensively detailed in previous videos how the geometry engine handles tasks like mesh shading, albeit in a slightly different way, and of course that the designs of both consoles are a little different from one another. Both very capable machines, don't misconstrue what I'm saying, but they are rather different, each having different strengths and weaknesses, and I'm fully of the mindset that the consoles are just hitting their stride at the moment, and I think what we've seen with the recent screenshots of Halo Infinite, I think it's a really good insight that the Xbox is nowhere near tapped out yet. I even think that Halo Infinite, the screenshots we've seen of the multiplayer, are nowhere near what the console's capable of in maybe another year after that, so let's say mid-2022. I think we'll probably see what the Xbox is really capable of, and for the PlayStation 5, the UE5 demo, I think, was a decent preview of that. It heavily utilised the geometry engine of the PS5, but ultimately, again, for retail titles, I think it's going to be another couple of years before Sony can fully show what their machine is capable of. I really don't understand how people are coming up with this ludicrous narrative of a date. And you can, for example, Google 1700X, and you can see that the date stamped on early production 1700Xs is 2016, and the CPU launched in 2017. You can do the same thing for the 2700X, and it will say like 2017 for the date, and the actual processor launched in 2018. By the way, I'm going to be putting up a really cool, fun 1700X video, so get subscribed if you want to check that out soon. It's really fun, and there's going to be a lot of extra content actually on the Ryzen series. In case you can't tell, AMD and MSI plus a couple of other vendors are chipping in, and we're going to be doing like a high performance build for the 5950X. And we will also be testing the 6800 XT as well. I'm waiting for the review sample from AMD for the 6800 XT. It's a little delayed at the moment just because of everything that's been going on, but I will be receiving that, and we're going to be doing a lot of cool tests. Anyway, getting back to the topic, when it comes to custom designs, it becomes even trickier, and ultimately it's a combination of different things which leads to the date on the chip. And it really doesn't mean anything. Like, Sony themselves have officially stated that the PS5 was about 5 years in terms of the planning and pre-production stages for the process before the final console was actually launched. And you've got to remember that the production of the PlayStation 5 actually started a little bit before the Xbox anyway. So it doesn't really matter, like, the date that's on the chip. I mean, it's a date. Who cares? We know that the designs of these consoles are set in stone literally years ahead. I think it was 3 years or something like that, or something that Sony themselves confirmed that the PlayStation 5 specs were set in stone. Like, they pretty much knew the specs and what features were in the APU and features that they were going to include in terms of the OS and all this stuff, like, years in advance. And of course, when it comes to the OS, features can change and evolve over time, but the fundamental actual architecture of the APU cannot change, but they can, for example, change the drivers to become more efficient or whatever else. So, yeah, I've just been tagged so many times on Twitter about that. But anyway, with all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Normal stuff: like, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.